We've got the Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 8 leaks here, so let's give you guys a quick summary. So if you don't want spoilers, back out right now. It starts off with what looks like a rock as the very first picture in the first panel, and then underneath that it looks to be like a city, like a very underdeveloped city. And the chapter is called The Three Heavenly Cursed Gods. We about to get some lore, you guys. I'm excited. The translation said, "When gods clashed, the heavens trembled and the seas roared. Those who survived the ancient cataclysm would pass down forbidden rites and words of the gods. Even now they sleep beneath the sacred stones. The story of the gods' demise begins anew. A prayer for salvation echoes through the wasteland. May the curse be lifted." On the second page, there's a long-haired Sumerian who kind of looks like this picture of Goku Super Saiyan 3 right here. And he's just walking down like a road type thing, and he's with some older Sumerian guy. And the long-haired one says, "If you catch them, just feed them something and send them back." The old man says, "That's easy for you to say, but with the way things are now, the children are starving. And it wouldn't be strange for some of them to resort to stealing or some other crime." And he says, "Still in the camp, there are some jobs that even the children can do. If the children return and they show some kind of skill, the adults can teach them some kind of trade." Then I believe it's the long-haired dude. He says, "You're more lenient than I thought you were." Then he says, "But I guess that's better than wasting their lives for nothing." Then we get introduced to two children Sumerians, and they're like little kids at this point. And it goes back to the long-haired dude, and he's turning back looking at the old man like, There's two of them? Oh, twins, I guess." Then the two children try to attack the long-haired dude, and he just kind of smacks them away. He just goes, poof. And he tells the kids, "Hey, you've got some spirit. That's good." Then he tells the twins, "Once you've cooled off, come help me with some work, and if you do a good job, there might even be some food in it for you." And he adds, "We're building a canal." Then on page 5, it flashes to them at the canal site doing some work. The long-haired dude has a pickaxe, and he's going to work. Translation says, "For now, I'll just keep digging. You two gather the stones from the side and stack them neatly over there. Don't touch the stones on that side. Got it?" They say, "Yes, sir," just like that. Ha, those brats really were troublemakers. But it looks like knocking some sense into them was the right call. Give it a few more rounds of hard labor, and they'll straighten out just fine. Bro tells the kids who were standing right behind him, "Geez, you guys sure don't get tired, do you? Or are you guys just bored?" And the two kids just like collapse on the ground, and he's like, "Hey, I told you guys to work, didn't I?" And they collapse because it is a giant boulder, and the dude's like, "Oh, that rock is a lot bigger than I thought it was. Stand back." And he punches the rock, just one punch, and it just explodes. Pause. And on the next page, the twins are just like in shock that he just destroyed that huge rock. In the translation, it goes, "What is it?" And then it says, "Dula, why are you building a canal?" It might be Doula or Dula, I'm not sure. And he goes, "What do you mean why?" "Well, I guess you just wouldn't know. Instead of using ships to carry goods from the Dethlante to Sharmer, sometimes it's faster to take this route. That's a huge detour. That's why we're making a canal here." Then he says, "I get it, you're so smart." And then it says, "Cross?" with a question mark. So if you haven't guessed by now, it seems like these twins are Maru and Cross. Then bro with the white hair, his name is like Dola or Doula. But these are rough translations, so take them with a grain of salt. And on the next page, they see this animal that kind of looks like this. I had ChatGPT generate like an image based off of the manga panel, so that's what this is. And right now I'm using ChatGPT to translate, and I'm pretty sure the other leaker is doing the same thing. But ChatGPT's translation said, "There's been a legend in this region since long ago about a being called Garaya, the guardian of the river. To bring prosperity to the land, people would offer sacrifices to the river spirit. For my clan, that being the one who protects the river is known as Garaya, and I'd assume it's this. When my parents refused to offer me as a sacrifice, the tribe cast them out. They were hunted down and executed. The Lumé tribe has always feared Garaya's wrath. Anyone who disrespects her is said to be devoured. We can't leave this place. We were driven out, and now we have nowhere else to go. All we can do is work for Descente." Like I said, take this with a grain of salt because that could be very wrong. "The one who took advantage of our misfortune. Everything in the land seems to lead back to him." And it's back to the long-haired dude talking. He says, "Even if we strike back, nothing will change unless the Lumé tribe changes." And then he says, "Descente won't change either." And he says, "For people without blood ties or a reason to coexist, some kind of connection is essential." And it shows kind of like a map of like an overview. He says, "The river that flows here is called Unarume." And he says, "The river that flows here will be a lifeline between the Lumé and the Descante." So it's like two tribes. He adds on, "If water from the Kelmel River can be directed this way, it'll bring life back to this land." Also adding again, once the Unarume River begins flowing again, it'll bring the water in and it'll make the ground fertile again. saying that if the water stays clean, it'll get rid of some of the children illness. That's what true coexistence looks like, but I don't understand it. We're kind of figuring out why Cross has the disposition that he does based off of his conversations with this man, who I believe it was Daula. The next page shows Cross standing with the long-haired dude. Cross is upset and he goes, "Guess who's not showing up today?" Then another character says, "You really think Cross has it wrong? I don't. Most people agree with him too. That's why I've been doing this alone." It's showing like a bunch of rubble. And it shows someone yawning, and I don't believe that was Cross. I'm pretty sure that it was the guy with long hair. But it says, "Just because the majority says it's right doesn't mean it is." Someone else says, "Yesterday's tremor, something's collapsed." And Cross says, "You've got to be kidding me." And another person says, "Cross would never do this. Someone else must have sabotaged it." When it says Cross on here, I'm pretty sure it's the Daula guy. But it goes, "Could be. But back when I was doing things my way, people who got my way usually didn't live long enough to regret it." And then they said, "The culprit's still out there?" But he says, "Who knows? Time is short and we've got work to do. That's what I know." The next page is back at the camp, and it's people sitting around and they're talking. They're talking about the different tribes around, saying like, this one's raking in money, this one's doing that. And remember what the tribe names, like, these are rough translations, like very rough, so take them with a grain of salt. One of them chimes in and they're like, if they're satisfied, like, good for them. And the panel goes inside the tent. It's like, you think that guy's satisfied? Ain't no way. Ains is obsessed. He'll keep digging till he hits something valuable. And it says, he's always been that way. It's like he can't help himself. Then there's one of those names that I was talking about that, like, the rough translation that says, maybe a fool, but he's not clueless. He's careful with who he lets near him. And the next page is then back to work. Clueless says, Cross, you're back. Like the other guy, he's been slacking off. The name the translation gives for the other dude is Drurara. Cross says, yeah, I saw him. And Cross points to some wood that's like built into the river system, like the water. And he goes, why'd you put all this wood here? Maru chimes in, is like, cause it'll make the base stronger, right? Cross says, not with this junk right here, you've got to use stronger material. Maru's thinking, he's like, I just didn't want to get yelled at again. And someone off screen yells, Maru! Cross screams, the water gate's collapsing. And the next page is back at the canal. And it appears like it skipped forward, so nothing came of the other stuff, I guess. Maybe we'll find out. But they say, the Lumé elders have agreed we'll proceed with the Unarume River Restoration Project as a united village. The Unarume will become a shared source of irrigation for both our people. And Cross says, it's hard to believe so many people came together for this. And that's not Cross, that's the Daula guy. He says, of course they did. Jamal, I knew you'd pull it off. And the name Jamal might not be Jamal, that's just what the AI is translating it to. But who Jamal is, he kind of looks like a Tengen type person just because he's a Sumerian, but he has like that squarish head like Tengen did, like the toe head almost. And the Jamal guy said, you always have too much faith in me. And Daula says, nah, you just always come through, that's all. And then one of the elders said, still, we can't deny that the Druara's initiative was what pushed the project forward. Without his groundwork, the elders might have never moved at all. And on the next page, Daula says, when people live and work together, they need trust and time. Then Maru comes forward, and remember, it's like a little kid version of Maru. And he bows his head down to Daula and the other workers. He bows his head down and he says, I couldn't stay silent about it. Thank you for believing in me. There's a happy moment with some smiles and laughs. Following that up, it's a montage of like a lot of the Sumerians working on that canal that they were talking about. And they finally finish the canal and all the workers are standing over it proud. Then it pans to showing a bunch of kids playing in the water and just being happy. On the next page, there's no text, but everybody's standing around admiring a big ship that it looks like they built inside the canal. I had AI generate another page. So this is the next page and it goes, the Unarume is flowing all the way out to the sea they're overlooking. And they're like, it's beautiful. Then the very bottom of that page, it's like a flash to where they're at their camp. Daula's talking to the old dude, like the elder, and he goes, if this port thrives, it'll bring trade and prosperity to Lumé. They say that'll open up the trade between the Lumé and the Descante. They say Jamaloma. I'm assuming Jamal was Jamaloma. I can't remember if that's how we pronounced his name earlier in the series, but they said he's been handling all negotiations. One of them says it's been 10 years now. That's a long time. So 10 years since they started the project, I believe. And Daula's talking to somebody about it. He says we'll build a river outlet here. And it'll be vital for irrigation and transport. And someone says, makes sense, but what about elevation? Won't that affect the water level? And Daula says, once it starts, the only way left to go is up. And then it shows them all celebrating. And then it appears Cross was narrating this whole thing probably to Yuka. He says, I thought from here on, maybe things would finally turn for the better. Chapter ends and there's a narration. But that was the day the guardian beast Garaya devoured the daughter of the Descente's chief. Remember, this is the Garaya. This was a very informational chapter about some of the Sumerians' past, and I believe next week's chapter we will get even more. Let me know your thoughts. Peace.